So finally, the big dual meet between Penn State and Iowa happened in Carver Hawkeye Arena. Carver Hawkeye was sold out as was planned, and it was a really exciting meet from start to finish. Things seemed to be going about as expected at the start. So Spencer Lee started off the meet at 125, got a tech fall over Brandon Meredith. Looked like he was getting close to pinning him early on, but wasn't able to do so. But where things really went haywire was here in the Austin Desanto versus RBY match. So this is in slightly slow motion. So the knee that gets injured for Desanto is right here. It's this knee. Looks like it's probably going to be an interior sprain, if not, hopefully not worse, but that seems like that's probably the case here. But you can see here his leg is pretty tight as it is. And RBY just yanks it over. That's where he gets hurt, and you can see the pain on his face there. So from there, Desanto has to take a bunch of injury time. He was down for a little over a minute. Eventually, he, after talking to his corner, decides he wants to go out there and keep wrestling. But at this point, he's pretty compromised. So he ends up going back out there.
And he took down, and then the intentional release by Desanto.
We did have that annoying thing with RBY where he hides his hand behind his back. And at some point, you'd like to see this get called for stalling. He's clearly not being offensive by doing that.
He doesn't want Desanto, right, to be able to control his left arm. And so it's going to challenge there, right there. You can see
so eventually it gets taken down.
Desanto into maybe moving.
But we're going to go towards the end of the match here.
And they stopped it.
So he almost gets packed again in another cradle. And when this happens, it looks like that's about it for him. He's in a lot of pain. Now, that being said, there's something really notable here.
I think he's wrestled pretty hard in the bottom position. Escape, 1 point for Desanto.
Yeah, so Desanto gets in again.
Now he attacks it. He's got the cradle.
Looks like he's getting cradled again. He's in a lot of pain again.
He's behind the leg right there. One more time.
That stops it.
They're clearly stopping this without the back.
And this here, what we're about to see here is something that kind of, it really worries me as an Iowa fan, but even just like from a general standpoint in terms of sports, one of the worst things I think a coach can do is if they have an athlete who is injured or is playing injured and is making it clear they don't want to be out there anymore, if they don't have to be out there for like some insanely important reason, like as if it's like the championships and it's like the end of the season, you're probably better off letting them, just taking their word for it. Austin Desanto is a guy who loves wrestling. I don't think he's a guy who's going to try to get out of a match on injury, especially against a guy he's beaten twice when he's got, at this point, over 5 minutes to work, unless he's really injured. And what we have here is this visual of him on the mat. Upset, he's kind of shaking his head no, and at this point he's looking up to his coach. And rather than trying to understand where his athlete's at and saying, you know what, look, this is a duel in January. This season's going to be a success or a failure based on what happens in March. If you're already injured, if you're already compromised, and you don't want to be out there anymore, then you know what, we can stop the match right here. At this point, it looks as though, and again, I can't hear what he's saying, so maybe he is being more supportive than his body language indicates. But you really have a bad visual here where he's like, look, I can't do it anymore.
Wow, that's
he's getting yelled at.
You said inexplicable.
And he just decides, you know what, no, I'm done.
So he can't go anymore. Can't go anymore. Yeah.
So hopefully for Desanto, it is just a sprain. With that being said, you're looking at Big Ten probably in like 6 weeks from now, and then NCAA's in 8 weeks. He's probably not going to be fully healed by the time Big Ten's come around. But for Iowa, they do have Paul Glenn as a backup, a guy who's been ranked top 20 before, had a win over Dylan Duncan when Duncan was at 133. So he can be a solid guy to fill in the lineup in the meantime. And you can really let Desanto get fairly well healed. He's done enough now where it's not as though he has to worry about qualifying for nationals. I think as long as he's able to make it to the Big Tens and not look completely out of sorts, I think he'll be fine with that. Yes, the seeding's probably going to be hurt by this, but I think Iowa's probably going to dodge a bullet here because it did look like things could have been really severe. But again, we'll find out soon enough what the actual injury is or if he's out for the season. But generally, if you have a sprained or like a sprained knee or really anything sprained, it's a lot easier to tear it if it's already sprained than it is if it's completely healthy. So I don't think it was worth the risk to try to force him out there. They did. I don't know if he got injured worse on that second cradle or what the deal was, but either way, I hope that Desanto can heal up. He's one of the most exciting guys. And really, I actually know it fair enough. To be fair, he's probably the most exciting guy in college wrestling right now. For Iowa, if they want to win the team race, it's going to be pretty helpful to have Austin Desanto out there. Paul Glenn is probably good enough to qualify, but I don't know if he's going to score more than like 1 or 2 points for you at that, if that. Whereas Desanto can score a hell of a lot more than that. So this could be a really big big issue for Iowa in the team race if Desanto isn't able to make it out for the rest of the season, especially with Penn State getting Roman Bravo Young to move up a spot then with Desanto out of the way. Next match after that was 141. We didn't have Max Mirren out there. I think he's injured right now. So we did have Carter Happel. But he had a really tough go against Mick Lee. Got put on his back, nearly got pinned, was able to get off, but the bonus points that got racked up from there, or the points that got racked up from there, were an issue for him, and eventually he gets tech falled. Then Pat Lugo goes out against Jared Verclaren. I could say conservative, but Pat Lugo is not exactly a guy who tends to open up on guys and go for like 10 takedowns a match. So whatever the case may be, he was positionally solid, was able to get a few takedowns here and end up winning against Jared Verclaren by a score of 6-1. Similar story with Caleb Young. So at that point, it's a one-point dual meet. It is worth mentioning that with the Desanto injury, not only does Penn State get 6 points in a match where you would have expected Iowa to get 3, given that Desanto is 2-0 in the last 2 matches against RBY, but they also had a point taken away from them while they were on the mat trying to help out Desanto after he initially suffered the injury. So all in all, that could be like a 10-point swing there. And for much of the meet, it was really tough for Iowa to catch up. But they were close. They were within 1. You had a match between Joseph and Marinelli, where Marinelli has wins over Joseph both times they face each other. So you're thinking, hey, this is not going to be easy to do 3 times in a row, but you know what? Maybe you can do it at least once here. At a couple different points in this match, it was similar to the last ones where they were going upper body. But this time, Vincenzo was able to put Marinelli on his back and rack up a ton of points. With that being said, though, Marinelli was able to get back up and nearly put Vincenzo Joseph on his back. Unfortunately for him, he just didn't have enough time to get any back points, but he did get 2 for the reversal, and I'll show that right here.
Marinelli coming hard.
So he puts him down.
Right at the end. Should be a reversal.
But unfortunately for him, all he got was 2 points for that. So even though there was sort of similar move for move, Vincenzo Joseph definitely got a lot more out of that than Marinelli did. So in the end, Marinelli was able to get a takedown in the final period, but it wasn't enough for him. And he ends up losing to the number 1 guy, Vincenzo Joseph. But for Marinelli, given that he was already number 2, he's not going to drop in the rankings. So while it's a big win for Penn State and it's a statement win for them, it's not really going to affect the rankings at all at this point. So then from there, another big match, we had Mark Hall versus Michael Kemmerer. Mark Hall had previously lost to Alex Meyer, the only other time he was in Carver Hawkeye Arena. So there were some thoughts, hey, maybe he might get carvered again. Well, that's exactly what happened. Early on, looked like he was close to pinning Kemmerer, but Kemmerer rolled through off of the throw, was able to come up on top, ends up getting the 2 points there. And then from there, you kind of figured, look, Mark Hall is really difficult to take down. That was sort of a fluky position where Kemmerer was pretty close to giving up back points. But you would think that Hall's going to be able to recover and be fine from there. But that really wasn't the case. Hall was able to score a couple more. I think he scored a couple takedowns from there. But Kemmerer was able to reverse him at times, was able to take him down. And then late in the match with Kemmerer up 2 points, Kemmerer was then able to hit another takedown and ends up riding him out and gets a huge win for Iowa here by a score of 11-6 over Mark Hall. So Kemmerer is going to go from number 3 to number 1 here. Hall will go to number 2. For Michael Kemmerer, he wasn't ever really able to jump Jordan Cutler because he never had a chance to go against Jordan Cutler. But by getting that win over Mark Hall, even if Hall gets that win back at Big Tens, you would think that Kemmerer is probably going to be in the 2 spot as long as there aren't any major upsets from here. Next match after that was Aaron Brooks and Abe Assad, an opportunity for Iowa to really make up some ground here. But Abe, though he got close to getting a headlock on Aaron Brooks, sort of similar to what happened with the Mark Hall Michael Kemmerer match, Brooks was never down for long enough for him to give up 2 points there or any back exposure. Brooks pops up out of there, gets a takedown. And from there, just wasn't a whole lot of success for Abe Assad trying to take down Aaron Brooks. Wasn't a whole lot of success for him trying to escape. Gave up over 2 minutes of riding time. And so Iowa was put in a position where they needed the next 2 matches if they were going to win this duel, which is kind of crazy to think of because some people thought that Iowa could win by as much of a score as like 28-6 heading into this. Obviously, the 10-point swing at 133 made a huge difference here, but it really put them in a tough spot. So at 197, Jacob Warner went out there against Shakur Rashid, got an early takedown, was able to ride him out very successfully. Used a lot of energy continually hitting mat returns. I think he kind of needed some time to catch his breath in the middle of the match, was able to do so, and eventually gets the win here by a score of 4-2, which then brings it to the finals with Cassioppi going up against Seth Nevels. You know, and while Cassioppi was really dominant throughout the match, this whole sequence seemed to really determine the fate of the duel. So Cassioppi comes in on a single. And Nevels gets close to taking him down. Cassioppi somehow gets out of here. And eventually he's going to be able to get the takedown and win the entire meet.
Treetop. We haven't seen the big man in this position yet.